Now then, Smash Bros MMA here again, week 2 of the podcast. It's me, Big Dog, KDiggy, and Jimbo Slice with you as always. Gentlemen, how are we? Well?
Not bad, mate. Not bad.
Good, thank you.
Been a bit of a... Not as much to go through this week. Just a bit of a rundown of last week's card, a bit of news and breakdown of this weekend's card that's coming up with the verdict picks as per. So we'll start off with last week's card. And we'll look at our verdict picks. 2 of us flew high. 1 did geesh. He did nothing. KDiggy, what went wrong?
I went with my heart. I went with the youth. And it just fell flat on me. You know, these old boys, we'll talk about it. These old boys stepped up to the plate.
So, for those who care, KDiggy got 798 points. I got 4,521, and Jimbo Slice got 5,967. So pretty storming score, to be fair, making it into the top 25% in the world. Beautiful numbers there. So the picks for that card, we'll go through each fight. So the first one was Claudia Gadelha against Yan Xiaonan. I think we all got this right. It was a pretty clear-cut choice, pretty obvious. Went exactly as we said it was going to. I think me and Jimbo had the same mentality. Gadelha, good for about what did you say, Jimbo? 1.5 rounds?
Stamina for 1.5 rounds, and then after that, it's everyone's fight.
Yeah, and went pretty much as we expected. Did you get this one right, Tom?
I did. It was the only one I got right.
The only one you got right.
Yeah.
The only one you got right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much, yeah. Gadelha came out strong, started strong, got the first round, and then from there went to pot. Pretty much like the Angela Hill fight, but she was lucky enough to be gifted a decision in that one. She didn't get so lucky today. So yeah, that fight. The next one was meant to be Ian Heinisch against Brendan Allen, but as I'm sure everybody's aware now, Heinisch pulled out at the 11th hour after he copped for COVID. So that fight was pulled off, and it was replaced on the verdict by a different fight in Giga Chikadze against Jamie Simmons. Did any of you get your pick in for this?
No. I was too late. I think I was enjoying a beer while it was all kicking off, and I completely missed it.
I didn't get mine as well. I think I would have gone for a Giga KO. I might not have gone for it round 1, but yeah, I didn't get it in at all. And I'm quite lucky because last week I picked Heinisch. I went with my heart over my head, which he probably wouldn't have won. So I'm lucky he went out. So I robbed ahead of the lead.
More points for you. The next fight was the fight of the night. Barcelos against Taha. Kind of went as Dana said it would, really. Said it was going to be an absolute barn burner, and it was, wasn't it? 3 rounds of violence.
Yeah, it was a good performance by Barcelos. He was great all around. Striking was phenomenal. I think he'll jump up the bantamweight division there, and he's got phenomenal striking, and he's great on the ground as well. He showed Taha how it's done in the UFC, and it was really, really impressive performance.
Beautiful. KDiggy, you picked a Taha KO in the second round, which you didn't get. Me and Jimbo both got this right with a decision pick, which were beautiful. Next fight, Arlovski Bossa. I got this wrong. I thought it was Bossa's fight to lose, and savvy veteran showing his game. Boys, what did you make of the fight?
I'll go first. It was exactly what you said last week, Big Dog. You described it as Andrei Arlovski either gets knocked out in a spectacular way or he puts on one of the most boring fights ever. And I've got to say, it was quite dull. I think I scored the first round of 10-10. There just wasn't enough activity. But yeah, I was very happy that Arlovski got the win. I picked Arlovski to win. I did somehow predict that he'd knock him out in round 2. Don't know why I pitched that. But I was happy that Arlovski got the win. He always brings back that nostalgia every time you see him.
Oh yeah, he should just bring the blonde streaks back, the blonde dyed hair, beautiful. I think he'd make an absolute storm in the division now. KDiggy again. You had the same mindset as me. A Boza knockout, and we were both wrong. I think a real disappointing performance for Bowser. Last couple of fights he's gone out there, he's absolutely stormed away, knocking people out left, right, and centre, and he froze in front of the savvy veteran that is Arlovski. A real shame for him, and I think it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
Definitely, and we can see with Arlovski, he is getting very old now. He's been in the game for so long, but you never know. He could do something special again. We'll see what happens. We know what happens in the main event, which we can come up to now. Age is just a number, and Glover Teixeira showed that. It was an incredible performance there. It was just too much on the ground for Santos, even though Santos has his moments, which I was backing, which I was praying and hoping, which would knock out Glover. It just didn't come to fruition.
No, it was pretty much Jimbo. I think you got it bang on with that third round sub on your picks. I went for a fourth round, didn't quite get it right, but the fight played out pretty much as I expected it to. Santos coming out heavy at the start, Teixeira taking them heavy shots, being in a bit of trouble, but then coming through and persevering to get the win. Third round was pretty tense at the start. Looked like he might have had him. But that savvy veteran Teixeira showing his moves. And Jimbo, what do you think Teixeira goes from here?
Well, I'd love for him to go into the light heavyweight title picture against Jan Blachowicz. I think it'll be it'll be a fight between two of the nicest guys, it seems like, in the game. I'm a big fan of Jan Blachowicz and big fan of Teixeira. I think he's earned his title shot in the light heavyweight division. I was actually listening to Chael Sonnen earlier, and he was saying that how can you say Teixeira has earned the title more over the undefeated middleweight champion Israel Adesanya moving up? And I disagreed with what he said. I was thinking, well, yeah, because Israel Adesanya has done nothing in that division yet. I'm a big believer of you need to prove that you can do something in that division before you get the title shot.
Yeah.
I was opposed to when Conor McGregor did it. I wasn't as opposed to when Henry Cejudo did it because he did beat the bantamweight champion in his previous fight. And I was opposed when TJ Dillashaw went down to try and do it. I would personally love to see Teixeira go into that light heavyweight title shot.
I think you're right as well, especially with the middleweights jumping up to light heavyweight. That 20-pound drop add-on is just so much, and it'll make such a difference. So I completely agree with you on that one. I'd say Glover has set himself up very nicely to get himself that title shot.
Oh, yeah. And I think there's an appetite for it as well. Dana White seems to be on board. Jan seems to be on board. I respect Jan for, opting to take on who is rightly, in my opinion, the number one contender in the division at the moment, as opposed to what some would describe as the money fight against Adesanya. But we'll have to wait and see what, Dana ultimately decides to do. Jimbo Slice has put his case forward pretty much strongly that he wants to share it and get the next shot. I agree. What about you, KDiggy? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. He's beat Anthony Smith, who was a title challenger, and he's beat Santos, who was as we say, one of the biggest threats to John Jones's title reign. I think it makes the most sense in the division. It's not going to get the most pay-per-views in the world, but you need to do what's right by the sport, and I think Dana will do so.
I think it'd make a beautiful co-main event early next year, possibly the Miocic Ngannou card. I think it'd be a really good co-main slot there. And in terms of some of the other, bigger fights rankings-wise in the card, Andrei Arlovski winning. Is he ranked at the moment? I don't think he is. Off the top of my head, I don't think he's in the top 15 currently. But Andrei Arlovski, he's definitely lower end. Where do we go for Andrei Arlovski next, Jimbo Slice? What should his next move be? What should his next fight be?
See, to me, his next fight should be, if he's not against someone who's on that lower end of the rankings, or putting it out there, maybe him versus Taito Ivasa.
They've fought already, though. In
I
quite
know
an
they fought
uninspired
already.
match.
Let's run it back. Let's run it back. I think personally that Arlovski's grown a lot, and so has Tuivasa, especially since before. And I want to run it back.
Yeah, I'm just checking the rankings now. You were correct. Jimbo Slice is ranked 15th. I'd like to see him fight Oleinik, to be honest with you. I think that's a great fight for him. You've got Oleinik coming off loss to Derek Lewis, ranked 10th. I think it's a good move for Arlovski to possibly make another run up towards the title. That'll be my pick for the fight. Two lower end top 15 contenders taking each other on to move up. What about you, KDiggy? What's your thoughts?
I like him taking on these younger guys personally. He could be a bit of the. He could be the guy. If you don't beat him, you're not going to get into the top 15. Feed into the Lions. I say, give him to our boy Cyril Gahn. Give him to some of our younger guys who are coming through. What's his name? Tom from Liverpool. Till's mate. What's his name? The boxer.
Yes.
Lost his name. Yes, from Liverpool. Our fellow over there. I think that would be a great fight.
Tom Aspinall.
Aspinall. That's the one.
It's a good fight. It's a good fight.
I think
it's a great fight. I think if he's going to take on that gatekeeper role, I'd argue maybe Tom Aspinall's a fight or two away from it. But yeah, I'm down for that. I think it's a good fight. It's a good gauge as to where he's going to be. The thing that I just find so fascinating about Arlovski is that when he fights these top players, he consistently gets knocked out. But when he's fighting these lower level heavyweights, that aren't in the top 15, that on the way up are knocking people out left, right, and centre, they don't knock him out. I just can't fathom why his chin holds up in these fights against the lower fighters than it does against the big boys. And you've got to ask the question: does the moment get to him in these top 15 cracks?
I was about to say, is it mentality? Is it in a way like I was saying about Dustin Poirier getting in his own head? Is it Andrei Arlovski getting in his own head, thinking I can make it? Oh wait, oh no, I need to get through this killer. Oh, I can't.
Or is it just that the people in the top 15 hit a hell of a lot harder? I don't want to find out. I don't particularly want to get in there and get smacked about by a top 15 heavyweight. So we'll move on. Yan Xiaonan getting the win over Claudia Gadelha. For me, there's only one fight that I want to see. I want to see it against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in that division. I think it's a great fight. You've got Weili Zhang, I think, taking on Rose at some point in the not so far future. Her against Joanna, great contenders bout. If you can get Jędrzejczyk over the line, it sets up the rematch with Zhang, as long as she gets through Rose Namajunas herself. Jimbo Slice, what are your thoughts? Who do you want to see a fight next?
I think you've hit the nail on the head right there. What you could do is you can step up straight away a number one contenders fight. Some people think Joanna Jędrzejczyk won that fight with Weili Zhang. Personally, I didn't, but it's an argument to be made, and you can put it out there. She beats Yan, she can get into that title. She can have the rematch. If Yan beats Jędrzejczyk, you can get a all China main event.
Oh yeah. Beautiful. KDiggy.
Yeah, I think that all sounds good to me. Get Yan in there against Joanna. I think it is a decent division, that strawweight division, but I think she's deserved it getting past Claudia there. So I think it makes the most sense. Get her against Jimmy Neutron and see if she can make her do the same again. But we'll see.
I think did you just call Joanna Jędrzejczyk Jimmy Neutron for a massive head? I like that. Another one. I don't know when she's going to be back, but if Jędrzejczyk won't fail in that fight, possibly Tatiana Suarez, but she's been out of the fold for quite a while now. She hasn't fought in what feels like about 2 years. I'd quite like to see her come back, and I think she'd be primed for a good top fight, to possibly decide the next number one contender in that division.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Briefly discussing the prelims, Darren Elkins, bit of a do-or-die moment, got the win. And then I just want to touch on the Romanov finish. Have any of you boys seen it?
The submission.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
Party.
Pretty much just put his forearm on his neck and he went unconscious. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in my life, to be fair. Pretty laughable from De Lima, and should probably get cut for submitting and losing in such an embarrassing fashion. In my opinion, terrible.
I just want to add something in before we move off the prelims. If you were watching the Max Griffin fight, don't do it while you're eating. Do not do it while you're eating.
Disgusting, dirty.
Great
shot, beautiful shot from Griffin, but when his ear exploded, that was horrible, absolutely horrible. Took me back to Jessica Eye against Leslie Smith. Couple of years, well, not about 6 years ago in Mexico. Now horrific, absolutely horrible.
What you were going to say? You put me back to starting off listening to Tyron Woodley's music.
Oh, I don't know what's worse. It makes my ears explode when I listen to that. Yeah. So yeah, that's last week's card. Decent card on the whole. Before I had some good fights and some great finishes. Prelims were superb. Can't recommend it enough. If you got Fight Pass, go back and watch it. Just touching on a bit of news now. Been a bit of a quiet week, so not too much to talk about. But Poirier against Conor McGregor, UFC 257 next year in January. Pretty much all but confirmed now. Apparently, both sides have come to an agreement on money and various things, and it's going to be announced, I'm hoping, this weekend. Superb fight. Jimbo Slice, how do you see it going?
Hopefully, with my pound for pound predictions I put last week, I'd want Poirier to win. But if I want my pound for pound predictions to come true, I think McGregor will win. I think McGregor's got the big stage. He's got that big stage moment. He knows what it's like. When I feel Poirier might choke under the pressure. I do think at the moment Poirier is the better fighter. He's evolved so much. I think he'll last longer than he did last time. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But if he can take it into deep waters, he can do exactly what he did to Dan Hooker. But Conor McGregor is a much slicker striker than Dan Hooker. And I feel like he's going to get him out early and he's going to knock out Poirier early because Poirier get in his own head and he's fighting two people in the octagon across from him. He's fighting Conor McGregor and he's fighting himself.
And you've kind of touched on what my next point was going to be, but KDiggy, how do you think Poirier is going to cope this time around? Obviously, when they last fought in 2014 and McGregor was in his head, do you think he's going to allow it to happen again?
No, I don't think it will, Big Dog. I think Poirier's grown a lot. He's fought the best. He's been in there with Holloway. He's been in there with Khabib. He's been in there with everyone, and he's been in there with Gaethje. And I think this is gonna be his breakout fight to be one of the greats in the UFC. I feel like if he wins this fight, which I believe he will be a Hall of Fame UFC fighter if he isn't already.
Yeah. I think this is a really important. It's an important fight for both guys. Realistically, whoever wins this could be next in line to fight for the title, whether that be against Khabib or for a vacant title down the line. I think it's a mega fight, and I agree with you, KDiggy. I think Poirier has grown so much as a fighter since the last fight. I think that fight against McGregor birthed the Poirier that we have today, if I'm being honest with you. I think without that fight, we wouldn't have, the phenomenal fight we've got in front of us now. I think McGregor's going to start strong, possibly going to have Poirier in a bit of trouble, bit of a brawl, but I think Poirier will do enough to get his hand raised, whether that be by a late stoppage or a decision, I don't know, but I think it's going to be a great fight regardless of what occurs. Another fight announcement for January. Bit of one for us old school boys now, one that I've been looking forward to for many years and been broken many times by it not happening. Matt Brown against Carlos Condit, verbally agreed, apparently, this being the third time. Originally was going to happen in 2013 in December, but Matt Brown pulled out with a back injury and then was going to happen again, I believe, in 2018, but Matt Brown tore his ACL. Jimbo Slice, is this fight actually going to happen?
See, I don't want it to. because, as you know, Carlos Condit is one of my all-time favourite fighters. And he hasn't been the same since he was robbed. He was robbed of his victory against Robbie Lawler. He just hasn't been the same to me. And Matt Brown, don't get me wrong, he's not the same Matt Brown he was in 2013, and neither is Carlos Condit. I think Carlos Condit probably had it then and probably would have won. But yeah, Carlos Condit's who's he beat? Court McGee. And
that's the only person he's beaten since 2015.
I love Carlos Condit. He's genuinely one of my favourite fights ever. But I don't want it to happen because it's going to be, in my opinion, a one-sided, slow beatdown from Matt Brown, because Matt Brown has been more active. All I think of recently when I think of Matt Brown is think of that hellacious elbow that he threw. And genuinely, I think it would have been the best retirement thing he ever did when he just sparked people out cold with that elbow, and he should have ended there.
Against Sanchez. Yeah, it was Sanchez back in 2017. On the Dustin Poirier Anthony Pettis card. I think back in November 2017.
Falling cold with that elbow, and it gives me worries. Like, is the natural born killer going to fall a brutal victim to someone who's been a bit more active? Don't get me wrong, Matt Brown's not been massively more active, but he's actually been winning over top competition. Unlike Condit, he has fought better competition as Condit. He fought Mayer, he fought Lawler. No, I don't want it to happen because I think Condit's going to lose.
I think I'll rebuttal your argument of Matt Brown winning against tough competition. The only win that he's had since the Sanchez fight in 2017 was against Ben Saunders in 2019 in December. Which, I don't want to be offensive to Ben Saunders or anything like that because he kicked the shit out of me. But I think to say that he's tough competition is absolutely laughable. To be quite honest with you, I think
been winning.
Not really. I'm pretty sure he was on a skid when he had that fight. But for me, I think it's one of these fights. It's reminiscent of Mayweather-Pacquiao in that it's a fight that was meant to happen years ago and never took place. Maybe not on the same scale, but it's definitely a fight that I'd like to see. Even if it is the both coming in wheelchairs because of how old they are. It's a fight that I want to watch. And I mean, for me, I think that this is a perfect opportunity for both gentlemen to call it a day and retire, have this fight, and go off into the sunset together, holding hands. But who'd you give it to currently, KDiggy? Where's your head at with this fight?
Yeah, I think as we've broken down here, I think Matt Brown has to get the win. Carlos is just not at it anymore. Back in 2015, that's when he could roll with the punches, but 5 years is a long time, and when you've been in and out of the game, injuries all the way through as well for both, it's not going to be too pretty, and we'll just have to see. But I have to go with Matt Brown for this one.
Carlos Condit, second round TKO, knee to the body is my pick. That's what I think will happen. I think Condit will win, and I think like I said, I think it's the perfect time for both of them to call it a day. Neither of them are really going to make moves in the division anymore, and I think it's about time that they both called it a day. Moving on to, top people in their divisions. Amanda Nunes apparently is pulled out of a title fight with Megan Anderson at UFC 256 for undisclosed reasons. What are your thoughts on the featherweight division itself, KDiggy, the women's featherweight division?
This one doesn't upset me really. Nunes is the queen. She can do what she wants. Megan Anderson, I don't think she would have had a chance anyway. I don't think anyone's got a chance against her, to be honest. It's a foregone conclusion before people even walk in there. We just need to wait for Valentina to come up and try it again.
I agree, the top two women's divisions, it's the Amanda show in it. I don't think Shevchenko would win, though. She's had 2 fights. arguably won the second, but I don't think she's just not big enough. She isn't on the same size that Amanda is. I agree with you, KDiggy. This fight did nothing for me whatsoever. Megan Anderson, yeah, fair cop, cracking striker, good moves on the feet, but you know, it was shown by Felicia Spencer when she took her down. She had nothing for her whatsoever. And I think that's how this fight would have probably played out. Amanda Nunes taking her down, controlling her for 25 minutes. She doesn't really seem to want to go for the finishes so much these days. She lets them come to her. So I wonder whether this will get rebooked or be replaced with something else. And Jimbo Slice, you know, what do you think might be the reason for Amanda pulling out here?
It could be anything. It could be wanting to spend more time with her family.
She has recently had a child.
Yeah, it could be anything. In these times, it could be she can't train the way she wants to. But let's be honest. I said, like, Megan Anderson, who she actually beat in the UFC, that's of any quality. She took that fight against Holly Holm and got controlled and wrestled by Holly Holm before Holly Holm was wrestling.
Yeah.
And I said she got taken down and destroyed by Felicia Spencer, and then she got the world's weirdest TKO win when she got stuck a toe in an eye.
Kicked her in the eye. Katzengarder went eye, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah,
that would have been a hard fight.
It was. I just think that I sit there with Megan Anderson and think you are a physical specimen that you should be able to do things more than you are. What is she? She's probably taller than me. She must be 6'1", 6'2".
She's a big girl. She's a big girl. I'll check now. I will check now to see how tall she is.
And I feel like she wastes her natural gifts with her unwillingness to train the ground, it seems. It seems
she
like,
is 6 foot.
Oh, she's my height. So
yeah.
She's taller than Amanda by what? 3 inches? Is Amanda 5'9", 5'8"? It's...
You're getting me doing numbers tonight, aren't you, fella?
I am.
Pull it up, Jamie.
I am. It's just... But there was a time when we all thought Megan Anderson would have been the one to beat Cyborg. There was this talk, which why people keep going on about. I'm going to move on to Kayla Harrison making a featherweight debut.
It
feels like this is reminiscent of Megan Anderson. We don't know until we see them fight the best. And don't get me wrong, Invicta has some cracking women, but it doesn't have Amanda Nunes. It doesn't have, who I personally believe is the most technical striker and kickboxer in the UFC, who's a woman. It doesn't have Valentina Shevchenko. It doesn't have people of these quality. It doesn't have Weili Zhang. It doesn't have Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
No. It seems that the UFC kind of cherry picks from Invicta, don't it? If they need someone at the last minute, they'll just grab one of their champions to come over. You know, it happened with Yana Kunitskaya, didn't it? When she fought against Cyborg a couple of years back. They just seem to grab the person who's at the top of the bill and just bring them over. And, you know, there's only been a few that have really thrived. And as you've mentioned there, Kayla Harrison, Jimbo, making a featherweight debut. Normally fights lightweight. Won the PFL championship last year, making a featherweight debut on the November 20th, so a week tomorrow. How do you think that's going to go, Jimbo Slice?
I think she's got she's very good chance of winning. She's physically the more imposing, and I would like her to win. I'd like her to make waves, and I'd like her to come to the UFC, and I would actually like her to help build the featherweight brand in the UFC for women. Because let's be honest, it's a joke. They don't even have proper rankings for them.
They haven't got rankings, have they? It's one person. Oh, that person will do. Go on, you can fight Amanda. It's a joke of a division. In terms of Kayla Harrison coming back to her, you know, judo Olympic medalist, could she be the complete package? You know, more than Ronda Rousey was, KDiggy?
To be honest, I've not seen too much of her. I'd have to do a little bit more research on her from my end here. But just to pack out even more people in the women's divisions, in the featherweight division, I'd always say more the merrier. I think. I know we shouldn't be bringing in bums, but obviously, if you've got that experience, it's worth bringing them in, even if she's getting beaten straight away. But we'll just have to see.
Oh. The casual showing his true colours there, Jimbo. Yeah,
with Kayla,
she's a gold. I'm pretty sure she's a gold medalist, KDiggy, over in the Olympics judo. Up to now, she hasn't lost a fight. She's been very imposing, incredible work on the ground, striking, still a bit unknown, but she hasn't had a year. She hasn't fought for a year, so hopefully she'll have made some, major improvements there. But I must say she's quite a big girl in terms of very muscular. Do you think she'll even make weight, Jimbo?
I think you'd have to be. She probably would, because why else would you take this fight? You've got to be confident that you can make the weight, or you have some things with it. My worry with things like Kayla Harrison is, are we hyping people too much too early? Is it going to be the Darren Wins? Is it going to be the Mackenzie Derns of this world, where they can win over a certain quality, but they've just been rushed a bit too soon?
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Jimbo. She's, in my personal opinion, she's got great potential to be, a superb fighter for the women. I think if she can comfortably make weight at featherweight, the move for her it's got to be eventually the UFC. She's still under contract with PFL, so they'll have to try and work something out there. But if they can build her up, work her beautifully, she could potentially be the person to beat Amanda Nunes, in my opinion, just based on sheer size and skills in a certain area. But final piece of news, and probably the biggest bit of news for the last week, Islam Makhachev pulling out on 5 days' notice, the one and only Irish Dragon, Paul Felder, coming in and taking that fight. He was meant to be commentating it, but he's not. He's now fighting in it. And I'll come to you first, KDiggy. How big are the plums on Paul Felder for taking this fight?
Yeah, I think you're completely right, mate. I think he's fantastic. He's Employee of the Year. Paul Felder, he'll do whatever he can to jump in there and make a name for himself. He's had a fantastic career, and this will, if this goes well for him, it'll be another notch on his belt to his greatness. Oh, yeah. He's fantastic, and it could be. If he does win this one, he sets himself up for another big fight if he wants it. If not, he can just relax and sit on the comfy commentary desk, because I enjoy his commentary as well. So I don't think it's a bad mood either way. He's going to be loved by UFC fans for taking this fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, we can't, since this is going to play into his picks for the card, we can't talk about this one too much, because we'll be giving away what we think is going to happen in the fight. But do you think there's going to be any issues with his stamina, Jimbo? Do you think he's going to make weight?
Well, I was incredibly surprised at first that he took this fight, because he's a big lightweight. He has fought at welterweight. I believe he fought Mike Perry at welterweight. But when I was listening to interviews with him, he said he'd been training for a triathlon, so he was already getting on his weight and getting ready for it. If you're training for a triathlon, you've got to be keeping your stamina up. I do think it might play some issue into it. I think when I think about RDA at his best, I think about that beating he put on Anthony Pettis, and he just caused Anthony Pettis to just tire and slow down. And RDA could do that to Paul Felder. I don't know, and I'll let you know my pick when we get to it.
Yeah, so we'll move swiftly into this week's card that's coming up. So main event being Paul Felder against RDA, Rafael dos Anjos. We're saying just before we started recording, it's not a card that particularly excites me that much, I'll be quite honest with you. I'm more excited for the pay-per-view next week, with a couple of big fights up in play for the future of many people's pound-for-pound rankings next year. A lot on the fold. But we'll talk about that next week. Just looking at the card now, specifically at the preliminary card, the main fight on there that excites me, to be quite honest, is the Jose Quinones against Luis Smolka bantamweight fight. I think that's going to be a bit of a brawl. bit of fun there. You've got Kenios, who's a bit of a scrappy gentleman, and then you've got Smolka, who is good on the ground, but always seems to get submitted himself. Anything else on that prelims jumping out at you, gentlemen?
Reece McKee, he got slapped up by Kamsat, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
That was so hopefully he can redeem himself a little bit after that, but it'll be a difficult.
Well, you know, a lot of the British fans tout Reece McKee quite highly and were very disappointed with what happened against Kamsat. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. You know, Alex Morono, I'm not going to slag people off, but he's not exactly top caliber, is he? He's not, you know, one of the big boys of the division. So I think it's a good entrance fight for him. Let's forget about the Kamsat fight. This is Reece McKee's debut. Let's see what happens. Let's see how he gets on. But touching upon the verdict picks, we've got the full main card here. First fight, Brendan Allen. Late notice fight, catchweight fight, £195 against Sean Strickland, who fought a couple of weeks back. It might have even been a fortnight ago.
15 days.
Uriah Hall.
Was it on that card? Yeah, he beat oh God, what's he called? The Welsh gentleman. He beat the Welsh lad. Yeah,
Jack Marshman.
He beat him. You know, Brendan Allen, Sean Strickland, both normally middleweights. This like late fight. Catchweight, £195. I'll start with you, Jimbo. What's your pick for the fight?
Well, I've gone something that I think a lot of people will be surprised with. I've gone with the underdog here. I have gone with Sean Strickland. I think he's a very underrated fighter. He lost like three in total. I know Brandon Allen he's the prospect that we're supposed to be looking out for. But I think Sean Strickland, he's got that top level competition for a lot. He's had it for a long, long time now. Not the most active man in the world, but I think he takes this one, and I've got him taking this by decision.
That's an interesting pick. What about you, KDiggy?
I've gone the same way. Strickland's lost 3 times, and it's against 3 big opponents, 2 of them being Usman and Santiago. He only loses against big top fighters. And to be fair, Allen lost against Giles and Anders as well. And even though he has beaten my boy Kevin Holland, I've gone for the underdog here as well to get that XP, and gone Strickland decision.
It's interesting picks.
But the interesting thing about it is, even though on verdict it is so one-sided to Allen, the bookmakers can't split them. It's right down the middle.
Yeah, it's one that I've been conflicted about because I've liked Brendan Allen. As I said last week, big fan of him. I had him beating Heinisch last week. It was my pick. I like Sean Strickland as well. Like you say, he's been in the game for a while, coming off quite a long layoff aside from the other week after having a motorcycle accident. But I think he's a decent fighter. I think he's good. He's got a lot of potential. You know, kind of this guy that comes in and beats the prospects, beats these people that are supposed to beat him. I have gone for an Allen submission in round 2, just because I picked him last week. I think he's here. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I didn't want to have the same picks as you, gentlemen, just to make it a bit more interesting and spice it up a little bit. I thought I'd pick something else. But Strickland, I'd say the money's on him, but I've gone with an Allen submission in the second round. And then the next fight on the card, Eric Anders against Antonio Arroyo. I'll start with this one. I'll start here. I'll talk this one through. Eric Anders decision. Oh, no, I've gone for a knockout in the third round, actually. I've gone for a knockout on here. Eric Anders is one of these guys, you know, you've got to look past his fights at light heavyweight when he fought Khalid Roundtree and Thiago Santos. The main work he's done has been at middleweight. I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't think he's a top-tier fighter. I think he's got potential. He's a good gatekeeper level to see where he's up to. But he wins the fights he's supposed to win on a regular basis. And I think he'll get a late finish here against Arroyo. Jimbo Slice, what do you think?
I think you've summed up my thoughts about Eric Anders. I remember when they were pushing him really big when he main evented that card against Machida and lost via split decision. And it was like, oh well, he was robbed. He's going to be a big prospect. And then since then he's been up and down. But he regularly wins the fights he's supposed to win. And I've gone for Eric Anders via decision. but I can see a knockout because he just throw energy in there every now and then. Burst, does something to win the round or win the fight. But I've gone with him via decision. And the reason I've picked him is because I just want to hear Bruce Buffer shout "your boy" again.
It's a great nickname. It is a superb nickname. And KDiggy, what are your thoughts here in this fight?
Yeah, I'm pretty much going with you guys as well. Going with the favourite, Anders. I'm umming and ahhing now, thinking about that decision. I think he might just want to get out there quickly, in and out. But I've gone for the decision after doing my research here. Both of them are on a bit of a skid, but I think Anders has got that experience in the octagon cage. The moment won't get to him, and I think he should breeze past his opponent. Yeah,
He should do, yes. So the next fight, Julian Marquez against Sapabek Safarov. We'll stay with you, KDiggy. What are your thoughts on this one?
it's a pick 'em for me. I think you throw a coin. I think they're both great fighters. Sarah hasn't got as much experience, I believe, but Sarah does have more experience, but Marcus is coming through the contender series, and he's blowing up there. I think for me, what I've gone for in the end, I did end up going for Marquez, who's the verdict and the bookie's favourite, and I've gone by the delay. I'm on first round submission.
That's an interesting pick. Jimbo, where did your head at with this one?
He summed up. He summed it up to me that did KDiggy. It's pick 'em. It is a pick 'em for me. I went for a Marquez win victory, and I went with via decision. That quite a hard fight to pick. Didn't seem to me that there was one point where I thought that person is just leaps and bounds ahead of the other. But yeah, I went with a Marquez victory by decision.
That's interesting. I've gone for Marquez as well. Like you said, KDiggy, he's from the Contender Series. These people, the lion's share of people that come over from the Contender Series tend to do very well in the UFC. They're given good fights. They come out, they perform, they get finishes. Sapabek Safarov, I have seen fight on a couple of occasions, and every time I have thought, how the fuck are you in the UFC? He is a horrendous fighter, laughably bad. Got absolutely spanked by Jean Volonté, of all people. I think he's atrocious. He's won one fight in the UFC. He's lost 3. I think all the money on Marquez. Put your house on Marquez. And I think it's going to be a finish in the first round by knockout. I don't rate Safarov, and I think he'll get cut after this fight because he is crap. Okay. Next fight.
That was a very, very, very vehement decision, but I say that we don't. The issue with this Contender Series, you don't know what the people are like until they had a fight in the UFC. I think, but yeah, I can see 100% see where you're coming from there.
Safarov's geesh. He's awful. It's not going to be hard for him. He lost his last fight by a stoppage. He's been stopped in all his losses, to be fair, and I think this one will be no different. So the co-main event. Abdul Razak Al Hassan coming back his second fight after his quite lengthy layoff. Lost his last fight via decision. He's fighting Chaos Williams. My pick here, Abdul Razak Al Hassan looks like a lost man these days. Prior to his lengthy layoff, he was killing people, murdering people in the first round. Vicious knockouts. His knockout of Nico Price sits firmly in my head as one of the most violent knockouts I've seen in a very long time. It was horrendous, but he's spoken quite openly about this layoff, the mental health issues that he's had because of it, and where his head would be at, from a loss last time. And they lost last time. And for me, I think, we're looking at a Brandon Vera situation here where people are out of the game for a long time and they never come back as the same person they were. I've gone for a Chaos Williams decision. Could be a finish from Chaos in the first round. I'm thinking, I just don't think Al Hassan wants to be there anymore. But he could come out and just absolutely spank Williams in the first round. I don't know. But my pick's a Williams decision. KDiggy.
I've gone Williams as well. Even though Razak's thighs are the craziest thing that I've ever seen. They are literally like cows on his legs. He is massive, but I think Chaos is going to come in. I think he's going to shock a few people. People see the name Abdul and they think, I recognise that name. I'm going to go for him. But I feel like Chaos has got a chance here. He's got a bit of a background he's got a few wins on submission, Chaos as well. So I feel like that's how it's going to go for him. I feel like he's going to take him down and choke him out in the second round.
Is Williams getting a sweep, Jimbo? Are we all picking him?
Well, no, he's not. I cannot at this moment in time give up on Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. I do think if it goes out the first, he's lost. I think if he goes out the first, Abdul Razak Al-Hassan is losing. And I think you have said it could be a Brandon Vieira, it could be a Tom Breeze kind of situation where they're not the same again. But I'm going to give him one last chance. I'm going to pick him this one last time. If he doesn't show me anything in this next fight, that makes me think I'll pick him again. I will never pick him again. This is his last chance, the last chance saloon for me.
So what's your pick apart from Abdul? What are you picking him to do?
Classic KO round 1.
Vintage Al-Hassan, some would say. Vintage. And now we're at the main event. We'll stay with you, Jimbo. So we got Paul Felder, RDA. Do you think that the short notice will play a factor in this fight, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, this has been a toss-up in my head since this fight was announced 2-3 days ago now. I sat there thinking, if it was a full camp, Felder's got this. I think Felder would have this instantly if he had a full camp. He was training for him and knew what he was doing. But he was retired. In his mind, he might have been fully retired. He might never have expected, I want RDA. And RDA, don't get me wrong, has been on a skid. I think he has a chance, though, here. I have picked RDA, and I've gone for something a bit different. I've gone for submission. He's that black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Paul Felder's a purple belt. If he takes it to the floor, he drags it to the floor, he can do just like what he did to Kevin Lee. Arm triangle, 4th round, I think. I'm being specific with arm triangle. But I want that RDA back who fought Anthony Pettis. I want the one who demolished Cowboy Cerrone. I want the one
who was juiced to the gills, RDA.
I want RDA who was actually winning the fight against Eddie Alvarez until he got KO'd. I want power RDA back. I want the RDA who fought Tarek Safadine. No, I don't really. I want the one who fought Neil Magny. But yeah, I'm picking RDA just out of hope.
And KDiggy, who do you think who's your pick here?
My thought process has been the same as we've said here. It's been a difficult one to choose. Yesterday I was thinking Felder. This morning I was thinking RDA. Then I've been thinking Felder again. But I'm gonna have to stay with the handlebars. I'm gonna go RDA decision. The short notice, it's too much. I think it is too much. But I think Felder will stay in. We've seen it in his last 3 fights. He's got an incredible heart, a chin which can take it all, and I feel like he'll be able. I don't think Rafael will be able to knock him out. I just think it'll end up being a fun fight to watch, but it'll go all the way to decision where RDA will get the victory.
It's a tough one. I agree with both of you gents here. It's been a really tough fight to call. I mean, the question for me has been, his trainers are all saying, he's training for a triathlon, his Felder, his weight's perfect for the cut. And I don't think he'd take the fight if he couldn't make the weight, because he wouldn't want that embarrassment of missing weight. He hasn't asked for a catch weight. So I do agree that I'd like to think that they are telling the truth where they say he's in good shape. He's always going to be in good shape because, like I say, he's training for a triathlon. The thing for me, at first I was thinking, kind of fool takes RDA on 5 days' notice. What a madman. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought back to the Eddie Alvarez fight, the more I thought back to the Tony Ferguson fight, and the reasons why RDA moved up to welterweight in the first place. It was a horrendous cut for him. And I don't know what's going to change in 4 years. You know, he's 4 years older, he's bigger. What's going to make this a better cut for him now? So I think that equally weighs as the 5-day notice. I think both are going to have stamina issues, and I think Felder's going to be just about do enough to get the win here, in my opinion. I don't think he'd have taken the fight if he wasn't confident he could win. And I've gone for, I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a war. 5-round decision going to my boy Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon. I think it's really coming to the end of RDA's career here, and I just don't think he's got that capability and potential to hang with the top boys in either division at lightweight or welterweight anymore. But we'll see what happens, won't we? We've put his picks in. We'll have this conversation next week, and we'll see who comes out reigning supreme again.
I need one.
Can I just quickly add in on your RDA fight? I do think you're right. I think Paul Felder's got better kickboxing. I do think he's slicker on the feet. I just think RDA needs to make this a dirty fight. And it's a big... If RDA beats Paul Felder, he's actually beaten someone who was higher ranked than his original opponent. Is what, Makachev 12th, 10th, maybe?
Yeah, he's definitely in the lower 5.
Paul Felder's 7th. He rockets himself up in title contention talk.
It's a massive opportunity for RDA. But even then, I think if RDA was to win, they'd probably still give him Makachev as his next fight anyway, regardless as to what would happen. You know, because you've either got RDA beating the up-and-coming that a lot of people are touting him, or you've got Makachev beating that prospect who's going to be ranked above him should he win and get that next level up. But I think it's a great fight. It's just a real shame that it's not on a full camp for either guys. You know, if we're on a full camp and build up for this fight, I'd be very excited. But no, I think it's Felder's to lose, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Good summary.
Anything more that you gentlemen would like to add on this week's card that's coming up?
I would just quickly like to mention that as we speak, Bellator is starting tonight. There's the Pitbull versus Carvalho fight in the next bit in the featherweight Grand Prix. To be honest, it's Pitbull's fight to lose. It's Pitbull's fight he picked. He picked it so it looked like he was beating someone who had a good record. But
it's a great fight. You know, any time that, you know, the smaller Pitbull turns up for a fight, you know it's going to be violent. You know he's going to go out there and try and get the kill. He's a great fighter. Definitely one of the better fighters in the Bellator as opposed to the UFC. One of the, you know, better fighters out there in external organisations. But yeah, it's a great tournament that, you know, you've got AJ McKee, Darian Caldwell coming up next week, which is, for me, a very exciting fight. And I'll be quite honest with you, I think McKee is going to win that, and I think he'll probably win the whole tournament. But it's a fight that I'm looking forward to. I don't see Pitbull having any trouble winning the fight this week.
Fully agree. I'm very excited for the Caldwell McKee fight as well. I think Caldwell's maybe a bit more, he's definitely more experienced, maybe a bit technically better than McKee, but McKee's bigger. McKee's got a size.
That's it. He's a big boy. He's a long boy. You know, Caldwell historically bantamweight, so you know he's going to be giving up quite a bit of size to McKee in this one. And it's just a beautiful fight, really. I think it sets up whoever fights that. Are they on the same side as Pitbull in the bracket, or are they on the other side?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
I'll check now, because I want to know.
Either way, I think it'll come down to those two at the end.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. So AJ McKee, Darian Caldwell's a semi-final match. We've got Pitbull against Carvalho, and then you've got Emmanuel Sanchez, Daniel Weichel, which is the other quarterfinal. So you've got Pitbull, you've got the quarterfinal fights happening tonight, and hopefully we'll get the finale at some point soon. But yeah, great fight. Absolutely fantastic fight. Cannot wait for Caldwell McKee to occur. KDiggy, have you got anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Nothing from me. I feel like we've gone through quite a lot today, and it's exciting for the fights this weekend. And even if the picks don't come through on the main event, and if Dos Anjos loses, I'll be excited for Felder as well. He's a very lovely guy. He's a talisman for the UFC, and I do hope he stays around whatever happens this next fight.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was saying to you before, KDiggy, this, I'm quite uninspired by this card, but it's these cards that always come out and surprise you, and end up actually having some pretty good fights and some decent finishes on. So we'll have to wait and see. It's easy to look at a card and say that's geesh, but you don't know what it's going to be like until the fights actually start. It doesn't have a lot of name value, but that means nothing in this beautiful sport. But if we've got nothing to add, thank you to all free listeners. I don't know how many people have actually watched this and listened to it aside from us showing it to people. So thank you very much. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk next week where we break down the fights that have just occurred. So until then, all the best.